Hey there, and welcome to Hot Seat. And we are here to explore the reasons of why. What's the why? What's the purpose? What drives business owners to do what they do? If it's what you're looking for, to get motivated, well, we look forward to sharing this episode with you. I'm your host, Kelvin Holiday, and I am enjoying the fact that we can explore people's why and motivate others. So stay tuned for this exciting new episode. 15 minutes, fast paced. Let's do it. Welcome again, folks, to another Hot Seat. We have got an absolute guru here now in the area of change management. Wayne Larkin, I've known him for quite some time. He's a bit of a character. We've got some stuff that we've actually been chatting about. He's from the sister city. We call it the sister city of Newcastle, and he is in Wollongong. So, Wayne, come on into Hot Seat, buddy.
Kel, how are you?
Mate, awesome. Really, really good to see you, buddy. It's been it's been a great time. We've had a couple of catch-ups and a couple of chats, mate, and I'm really looking forward to this one. I know a little bit of your background, but how about you just tell the folks, a little bit about you, your family, where you're from, down there in the Gong.
Yeah, sure. So based in Wollongong. I also lived in Sydney for 9 years, and also in Canberra for 7 years, working there, and then now back in Wollongong, close to the beaches. Have married with 3 girls.
Nice.
And all in businesses to do with influencing, also radio, TV area in relationship to organising that. And one of the other ones is my youngest daughter. She's basically involved in fashion online, communications and public relations and that sort of thing.
Cool, mate. And you've had a bit of an interesting sort of work history and stuff like that. You're into change management now, which is, like, we live in a world of massive change. If you're not keeping up to that, there's a lot in there. But you've had a bit of a different sort of history. Just tell us a little bit about the background and what led you to be doing what you're doing now.
Yeah, sure. So I basically have a background in advertising and run accredited agencies and work for major companies here and overseas. And I have been involved in heading a project up for crisis management for national security in Malaysia, a 3-year tender, which we are preferred supplier for, working one of the biggest defence contractors in the world out of the States. They were a supplier to me. And I've worked on reform for Australian Defence on a $5.5 billion reform project, and worked in federal government innovation for change, and developed a model that ended up being used by intelligence branches for rapid decision making. So I have a background in that as well. So involved in really strategy, and the systems that we currently use, the hierarchical command and control systems, basically worked during the industrial age, and into the 18th and 19th century. But as we went into the 20th century, they're just not fast enough.
Yeah.
And in the 21st century particularly, they don't work. But people are really slow to change their models, and what you've got to do is you've got to be able to harness the intelligence of the organisation, and you've got to deal with diversity of ideas, and you've got to be rapid, because you've got people in the world, like we've seen with Steve Jobs, Sir Richard Branson and Elon Musk, that are, moving so fast across many sectors, and you can't be flat-footed. And so the standard models just don't really work much anymore. The same as the idea of pivoting. You're either in an innovative space and doing it all the time, or you get left behind. So examples, would be cab companies, where Uber came along. You really don't have a chance to pivot. You're either at the head of the curve or you're not. The same with Nokia, with the iPhone from Apple. There's many cases of it. And now what we're seeing is these high-end entrepreneurs putting amazing teams together across multiple sectors. So whereas before a lot of business stuck to their lane, now what we're seeing is they're moving across everything. And so it's important the way you restructure your organization. And so the role of CEOs really goes as an inverted triangle, where you become involved in strategy and then facilitating your staff on the ground to be able to do their role. I guess very similar to what you might see, like say in defence with special forces. They're on the ground, they know what their mission is, what their objectives are, and then they let Central Command know what's required at any given time for them to be able to achieve that, and then they facilitate that outcome for them.
Yeah, and you're so right. Like we mentioned it just before this episode. Yeah, pivot. You know, like that word. When I heard it, I'm going pivot. Like this is not a pivot. This is like a flipping and it's on its head. You know, like we had the COVID situation, which is, from a technology point of view, the change that we've seen around the world from a technology point of view is so rapid. And it's flipped the world on its head. Like even like what we're using here, Zoom. Like it was it's sort of kind of used. We had Skype and a couple other different ones, but like it just went through the roof. And if they didn't change, innovate, all right, it wasn't a pivot. It was a complete reboot of everything they were doing. So what's some of the things when you're in a business, like a lot of business owners are facing this issue, and it's not about how do they do it, but how do they cope mentally? What are some of the mental or mindsets things that people have really got to get a hold of in this ever-changing, evolving, innovative sort of space?
Yeah, and that's a very good question. One of the main points of that is situational analysis, being involved in understanding beyond your lane or sector. Like we know that, for example, that experts in given areas that people love to listen to are usually mostly wrong. That's well researched. And the problem is that because they have a very narrow view of the world, and they don't understand there are many other influences out there to make a holistic picture, and then their ability to be agile. And so a lot of the experts, it's really interesting. The research clearly shows that they're wrong most of the time. Yeah. But if they make predictions outside of their area of expertise, they've got more accuracy than in their area because of cognitive bias. And so situation analysis is really important. I worked in the video conferencing space back in the 80s, so it's not new. Zoom came along, COVID, and it really took off. But the thing is that it was a really slow haul. People couldn't see how it could be used, and then all of a sudden, when COVID came along and forced people into a position where they had to use it, then you had high adoption rates. So it's not new. It's been around a very long period of time. It just hadn't been adopted, and so most people don't have their eye on imagining the possibilities and the technologies that are around.
Yeah, and look, I've seen that myself. We are relational beings, and we like to be having and sitting down and having a bit of a chat, bit of a coffee, beer, whatever you want to do together. That's people. But here I am in Thailand. You're over in the Wollongong. All right. We can still have a conversation, and there's still an area, through the innovative space, through that adoption change process, where you just adapt. And I think we've got to adapt to our climate. The pivot thing, adaptation, innovation, that's where the real line is. So I guess when we're thinking about this adaptation, all right, and stuff like that, what is it that gets you out of bed of a morning? Like you're dealing with people that are facing these changes and these challenges all the time. And I can imagine that you get a lot of, for want of a better word, people's problems. All right. You're hearing this sort of stuff all the time. and you're also got to face your own problems, your own life. You've got family. You see, you got three daughters, like having the family of five, and so you got your own, you got the internal family sort of dynamics. What are the things, what are the personal strategies that you do to keep yourself? Because I know you like to keep fit, and you're always, always on the ball. What are those things that help you to keep moving on a daily basis?
Yeah, you pointed one really good one, Kel. Keeping fit's really important.
Yeah.
Health is, one thing that, if you lose it, sometimes you don't get it back.
Mm,
And it's easy to maintain.
mm,
And it basically mitigates stress and makes your body function properly, right?
yeah.
And a lot of people treat their bodies like a platform to move the brain around.
Yeah.
And there's a little bit more to it than that. And I guess the base strategy, and I guess the golden rule is helping others.
Mm,
So one of the key whys is helping and looking at changing the vibration of humanity. So the old one of making the world a better place for being here. And I was taught by a Native American Indian when I was 17, for a year. And I've been lucky enough to be around the world with different leaders and different cultures and have multiple perspectives. And their view is that that basically we're here for a certain period of time to make the place to learn. I mean, the Aboriginals have an interesting proverb, and I'll just read it to you. I'll read it off. We are all visitors to this time, this place. We are just passing through. Our purpose here is to observe, to learn, to grow, to love, and then we'll return home.
yeah. How cool is that? Yeah.
So I think, the important thing is that a lot of people have amnesia and they've lost the concept of love, which is a point of bliss.
Mm,
And that sort of rolls into why. I think people have aptitude towards certain things, so it's easier for them to do those things, whether it's a singer, or I used to be in the record industry or whatever it might be. But that tends to then create a passion, which is really what drives purpose and also drives pleasure.
mm,
And so if you're really happy in a time and space and you don't think I really want to be doing anything else, I think that's the why that you try to identify. And
yeah.
it does take courage to seek that out. Um, where a lot of people will work under other people's whys. And that's not a problem if it's in alignment with their particular purpose and what drives them.
Yeah, absolutely. I remember going back quite some time ago, and for those people who have seen my history, courage, like that is such in this changing world, it takes a bit of courage to step out of your comfort zone, to do something different. You got to be determined, and it's actually there it is sitting on my shirt.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yes. Yes.
strength, and I just I love that sort of strength, courage, determination will give you hope. It's
Mm.
that hope, it's that sense of, as you said, purpose and love that a lot of us have gone into that. Okay, I'll be the guru at whatever it is, and the thing that we do becomes our identity rather than who we are and what we're supposed to be doing on this world. And we define ourselves by what we do, not who we are. And I think there's some real learnings in that for us that you've actually alluded into. So, mate, we're gonna go for the wrap up. I'm gonna ask you, Wayne, what is your one hot seat hot tip? All right, and I get a lot of people say, "Well, I've got two or three." You're quite welcome to actually have two or three, but I'm looking for at least one.
Yeah, sure. One. And I think that's the golden rule of benefit to others. And ideally, there's two different types of legacy, I guess, generally. There's the one that when you die, it goes.
Mm,
And Gus Belt, is very famous in law and also was consultant to multiple presidents, said that, I thought good science could change the world, but what we found was that basically people are selfish, greedy, and apathetic, and science doesn't know how to deal with that. And then the big thing that you're looking at is the outcomes. I mean, is the world a better place now than what it has been maybe 30 years ago, 40 years ago? And I think what you see is that we're getting a lot more mental illness. There are a lot more problems coming up. So the strategies that are being used of self are decaying society. And I think it comes back to, being the benefit of others, and also those key principles about being good for your word, and having honor and integrity. I mean, a lot of those have, fallen off the table, and they're really critical that you do have integrity, you do have honor, and that you're good for your word.
Leaving a legacy that lasts beyond your own expectations, your own greed or desire, that
Correct.
makes a change in the world.
Yeah. Like Martin Luther King and people like that, right? For example, their legacies didn't die with them. They're carried on by other people because they move the emotions of people, so that they have a vision of how they see the world and how the world should be, and they're carrying that on. And I think that's really important.
Beautiful. Wayne, this has been awesome, man. And getting to know you. And I'm sure we'll have you back on to Tool Time, our other podcast, where we actually will get into that change management area. We'll give some people some tips and tricks around that. But it's been great getting to know you, understanding who you are and what drives you. And innovation is definitely the key word. If you know Wayne Larkin, innovation, change management, that's his gig. So thanks very much for being here, mate. That is another episode of Hot Seat. So thanks, and I will see you all again really, really soon.
Thanks, Kel.
Thanks for joining us here at Hot Seat. It's been an amazing, amazing event. It is a place where you can actually enjoy and be inspired by the why of others, the drive of the purpose and the passion. Please like and share this podcast with as many people as you can to inspire them to make a difference in this world. Have an awesome day. Unleash.